So we have our player movement, we have some objects that the player can collect. We're going to try to put these elements together to actually make a very simple sort of game. First thing we're going to do is we need to create a few more apples, and this is one of the reasons that we put the collecting code inside the apple, and that's because over here in all our objects panel we can just right click this and then duplicate it to make a copy, and we're going to do this a few times to get a few more collectible items, and we'll just test this out. Perfect. And we'll just test the reset as well. Fantastic. So now we've got a player and then 4 objects. The next thing is we just want a little number up in the top which shows the player how many of the objects it has collected. And we're going to use variables for that. Variables can be a bit complicated to understand, but they're fantastic, they're really useful, and they're one of the fundamental things we use in programming. So we can see just down on the left hand side here is a tab called variables, second from the bottom. And we can create a new variable by clicking this button, and we're going to call this apples. And there we go. We've made a variable, we've made a container or a pot, we've given it a name, apples, and using the code we can set it to be different values depending on what's happened. Also to the game screen we now have a number up at the top that says apples 0. So we just want every time we collect one of these apples for that number to go up by 1. We want to change it by 1. So by the end this should equal 4. We're just going to go to apple 1 and add one more block of code into here, which is going to be change apples by 1. You can see there's a few other variables that we can use, so just make sure it's the same one that we have up in the top there. Very important that we do not set apples to a different number, that we use change. Change will sort of add, or you can set it to -1 to take 1 off of its current number. But if you set it, it ignores whichever number it was set to, and we'll just set it to whatever number's there. So make sure you change apples by 1. And let's do this for the other 3 objects. Sometimes it's easier to do this and then duplicate, but there we go. Okay, let's test this out. Collect 1, 2, 3 and 4. There we go. And one thing to check as well, I've just restarted the game with the green flag, and the variable didn't reset to 0. So you can see it's going up and up and up. So we just want to make sure that it goes back to 0 when the game starts. So in any of the apples, probably just do it in the first one, we're going to set the apples to 0 at the start of the game. That's the one time we do use that. So now we restart, just make sure cat was in the right position there. Collect 1, 2, 3, 4, reset the game, and we're back to 0. So there we go. So see if you can create a sort of simple object collecting game in which the player has to collect different objects, and we can keep track of them up there as well.